Hey, this is Don from Paralock Technologies again with another video. Got a question about site-to-site VPNs on FortiGate. Now, I know you've been seeing me do a lot of FortiGate stuff. Again, I am vendor agnostic, don't really care about the vendor. I just care, is it going to help me do the right job? Now, if you don't know anything about FortiGate firewalls, I'm going to put a video right here that is an overview of FortiGate firewalls. You need to watch that first before you watch this because you need to get some fundamental understanding of the GUI and how that works before you dive into stuff like this, right? Always start with the fundamentals and then add on. So I'm gonna jump right into it. So the site-to-site VPNs on FortiGate are pretty easy, right? And they're similar to Palo Alto firewalls, right? They're route-based style VPNs. Now, Secure Firewall from Cisco has now added the route-based VPN function in their firewalls. So now all firewalls now can do route-based VPNs. Cisco was a little hard-headed in the beginning of sticking to policy-based VPNs, which is the old crypto map style VPNs, but they realized like the future is the route-based style VPN because with the introduction of the cloud, which really only works with route-based style VPNs, you need a firewall. If you're going to use a firewall to do a connection to the cloud or something like that, you need to be able to do route-based style VPN. So I'm very proud of Cisco for, biting a bullet and realizing the policy-based VPN is legacy now, and it's time to go to route-based style VPNs. So now let's get right into this. Very simple to do on a FortiGate firewall. There's two ways to do it. There's a wizard and there's manual. I'm always going to say do it manually because if you use the wizard and you don't know what the wizard is doing behind the scenes, when it breaks, you don't know where to look, right? So learn how to do it manually first before you use wizards and stuff like that. So, real simple. You go to VPN and there's two styles in here. There's the wizard, which will walk you through how to do a site-to-site VPN. Very simple. If you don't have time to do it manually, which you should have time to do it manually, you go through this. It'll create a bunch of policy. It'll create your VPN. It'll create your phase one, phase two. It'll create your, I believe it creates your security. Yeah, it creates your security policy, and it creates everything. Like everything. The only thing you really need to put in here is like the pre-shared key to authenticate uh, the VPN headends. Oh yeah, if you don't know anything about how site-to-site VPNs work from a site phase one and phase two, I'll put that video up here too. I just did a video about how phase one and phase two work and how one depends on the other one, how phase two depends on phase one. That is site-to-site VPN theory. Again, you need to master theory and concept before you do configuration because theory will always help you in troubleshooting. Okay, always remember that concepts and theories will help you in troubleshooting because if you don't know how it works from a conceptual behavior or a conceptual standpoint, and you don't know what the components are, when something breaks, which is what you really get paid for, you don't get paid for knowing how to do something. You get paid for knowing how to fix it when it goes wrong, right? Remember that one. If you don't know how to fix it you don't know how the components work, you're not going to be able to fix it. So this is the wizard that walks you through how to do it, but we're going to talk about the just off the tunnel. So in order to do this, and I already have it set up, but we're going to just talk about this, right? So you go to create new and tunnel. And why did it do that? Oh, I think it's trying to. Oh yeah, go to the wizard. Sorry, and you hit custom. You give it a name. Uh, Test tunnel. I'll say test tunnel, and you just hit next. Now, I don't particularly like that, right? If I go to tunnel and I say create new, it shouldn't take me back to the wizard, but whatever. So you fill out your parameters here, your remote gateway, that's the other side. Then you give it, it usually automatically does the interface. Then you say local gateway, you pick your local gateway, NAT traversal if you want that enabled. I say just keep it on by default. Then you have your advanced stuff, add route, auto sender, auto discover sender receiver. You don't typically need to do that, but if you use the wizard, it does turn it on. Then here's your pre-shared key to authenticate the VPN headends. Now you have your version. You can pick phase one or phase two. If you know about that other video I just told you about, I always say go ICAV two because ICAV one is it's legacy, and it's not as secure as ICAV2. Here are your proposals. Now, this is a policy in ASA or FTD talk. This is a policy. So I got ICAV1. This is your ICAV1 policy, right? And you have to have your encryption algo. Here's your hashing algorithm. They call it authentication, but there's your hashing algorithm. Here's your Diffie-Hellman to get the keying material for phase 2. That's normally the only thing you need to put in there. And then your phase 2 is basically your phase 2 parameters. Here is the traffic selectors that you would put in. And then from an advanced standpoint, you pick your algorithms again, your encryption and your hashing algorithm, even though they call it authentication. Here's the perfect share secrecy. If that's turned on, you're running Diffie-Hellman again. And remember, watch that site-to-site video. I'll explain that. That explains all of this. And then obviously you need to put, auto negotiate and auto negotiate keep alive. Now, what does that look like in real life, right? We'll get rid of this. Let's open this up. So this is what it looks like when you're done. If I go to edit here, like I said before, this is the DC40 firewall. Those automatically pick the WAN port. Here's all the stuff that I did not select. Again, you don't need to select any of this, and just keep the add route there. Mess with that. Here's the pre-shared key part. Here's the phase 2 selectors. Now, the phase 2, you can use names instead of just subnets, right? And then once all that's done, my encryption algorithm and all that's done, you see the tunnel's already up. So we already know the tunnel is working. The last thing you need to do is, well, there's two things that you need to do. You need to create a policy for it, obviously, to allow the traffic. So I have a policy in here that's going from the inside to the other side, and then from the other side inbound to my side whenever this thing wants to come up. So here's the two rules that I created. This is coming from the other side, going local to me. And then this one says LAN going to CD Cali to DC40. This is from my side going to DC1, and the one on top is DC1 coming to me. So that's you always got to have a firewall policy for that. The next thing that you need to do from a networking standpoint is you need to create the static route, right? Because I'm using, if I go to my interfaces here, I'm using VTIs because that's what this does. I gave it an address. So I gave it an address of 169.254.202. You'll start seeing me do that a lot because if I'm just doing, if this is never going to get routed to the internet, I use these type of IP addresses. You'll start seeing this a lot in a lot of other setups as well, right? And obviously the other side has the .1. And then when I do static routes, I have a static route here that says to get to this destination, you're going to go over the VTI interface. So let's open that up a little bit. Yeah. You're going to go to get to this network, which is DC1. You're going to go over using the 40 VTI interface. And as you can see, this was created by the wizard, by the way. And then nothing else there. So once you have that already set up, and I'll show you on the DC40 firewall side, pretty much the same setup, but I'll show you the static route at least. So the static route is coming this way. So to get to my loop back on a switch and to get to that network, we're going over DC Cali, which is the tunnel interface, as you can see. So that's there. Everything else is pretty much the same. What I showed you on the Cali firewall is set up the same way. If you want to look at the rule set here, here's the rule set right here. Same thing, all right? And then from a tunnel group standpoint, let's go to our tunnels. Tunnels right here. Same setup, all right? Now, we need to actually ping the other side here. Let's see if the tunnel comes up here. Now, the last time I did this, I had to reboot the firewall because it kind of gets stuck. So I'm not surprised if this is not working now. You just saw that it was working before, but it is not working now, which I'm not surprised. So what I'm going to do Let's see, we got the route here, and I may have to reboot the firewall on this, to tell you the truth. Mhm. All right, so I'm not seeing the route there. It does have the route from this side. Oh yeah, it does have the route. Here's the other route here. So again, this is probably an issue with the lab where I have to reboot a firewall to get this to work, which I'm not surprised. If it doesn't work again, I'll reboot this and you'll see what I'm talking about. Yeah, let me try it from the other side as well. And if this doesn't work, I definitely know it's the lab. All right, so this is a perfect example of the lab wanting to be stupid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, stop, stop this one here. Now you're seeing it live, so they're definitely going to restart this. And this only happens in the lab because my lab is getting blitzed right now because I'm turning on a little bit too much stuff. But again, we'll wait for this to come up again. And then what I'm going to do is do a infinite ping. And we'll just wait for that to come up on both sides. Obviously, nothing's going to work right now. But anyway, back to what I was saying. That was pretty much how to set up a site-to-site VPN. Now, I don't like to end videos without it working, so I want to show you that configurations are fine. It's just my lab is deciding to crap out on me right now. And that's another thing about labbing. When you're labbing in like virtual environments and stuff like this, you may think you did something wrong, and 9 times out of 10, you didn't do anything wrong. If your configurations are correct, again, from a concept standpoint, and you know those configurations are correct, then rebooting some devices, especially in EVE-NG, because sometimes EVE-NG will cause things to hang, and then the actual virtual device that you spun up will stop working for some odd reason. So 9 times out of 10, just reboot it, and then once you reboot it, it should work again. And we're just gonna wait. That one's down, which is fine. I'll wait for that to come back up. And then once they're both back up, I'm gonna slide this out the way real quick so I don't have to keep looking for that. We're gonna wait for those to come back up, and then as off screen, I have the ping test still going. But once I know these Fortinets are back up, I'll slide it over once traffic starts going through. Because I'm running OSPF as well, so I gotta wait for those adjacencies to also come up. And then when those adjacencies come up, the default route get pushed down, and then all the traffic will start going back through the firewall again. Again, you're seeing this in real time. This is why I like doing videos like this, because in real time, I'm not somebody that's going to just try to make a perfect example all the time. I want you to see, hey, sometime the lab be messing up and you got to reboot some stuff live. So this video is going to be a little longer than expected, but once they do come back up, we'll validate that everything is working. All right, so as soon as like that one is up, and like I said, look at that. So as soon as the firewalls came back up, traffic started working again. That's what I keep telling you guys. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it is your lab that's just deciding to crap out on you. So now, if we go to our dashboard, and did I add IPsec tunnels in here? I don't think. Oh, IPsec monitor is right there, right in my face. If we go to IPsec monitor, we see the tunnels up right here. And remember, on DC41, the tunnel wasn't up. Well, we're gonna go over to the dashboard, and we're gonna do IPsec monitor. And as you can see, tunnel's up. So again, I knew the tunnel was up. I knew the tunnel was configured correctly. Problem was, Fortinet virtual firewall and EVNG just decided to wet the bed on me, right? So just to validate that's working, and let's see if we can get to the front end ice here. And there you go. That is my ice server in DC1. And let's just validate. I can get in there. And bam, we are in. So you got to see EVNG mess up on me live, even though the site VPN configurations were correct. I hope I answered your question about site-to-site VPNs on FortiGate, even though this video took a little longer. If you like stuff like this, I have a bunch of other videos on this channel where I go over multiple different vendors, different techniques, all kind of cool stuff. If you like that kind of stuff, don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. And always remember, it's not about the vendor, it's about what you're trying to do. Always be vendor agnostic because everybody's going to have their own issues and problems. So don't drink the Kool-Aid. This is Don from Padlock Technologies again. Thank you and have a nice day.